VR streamers have a tendency to play a new game and then immediately make outrageous claims that it's the VR version of whatever. Dash Dash World? Well, it's Mario Kart in VR. After the Fall? It's Left 4 Dead in VR. Now, sadly, VR games seldom live up to these lofty comparisons, but try as I might, there's no way I'm going to get through this review without falling into the same trap. So here we go. This is Organ Quarter, PSVR2's newest survival horror game. And yeah, it's kind of like Silent Hill in VR. The whole Silent Hill vibe is no coincidence, it's all by design. You start out exploring your apartment building and it's obvious that things aren't quite right here. There are metal grates everywhere, sections of the floor are just missing, doorways are boarded up, and there's organic pulsating crap like everywhere. And the only ones that are left here talk as if there's nothing wrong. It's an unsettling vibe that's only further backed up with some great ambient noise and some really familiar sounding music that helps set the tone. And while the graphics get the job done nicely with a ton of particle effects and a dithering filter applied to enhance the retro game vibe, this is also where the lower budget of the game becomes obvious. Environments can be really bland for long stretches of time, and enemies are low-rent versions of the ones that inspired them. Somehow, this all seems to work in Organ Quarter's favor, though. I really enjoyed the feeling of playing through a PS1 era game in VR. Combat's really basic with simple one-button reloads, but playing through on the harder survival horror difficulty makes you really think about ammo conservation, so you'd be searching every corner for more and dodging enemies rather than killing them whenever possible. And you'll need that ammo for the boss fights, which, although formulaic, were always enjoyable. But the coolest throwback feature here is the map. If you ever played a Silent Hill game before, you basically lived on those map screens, navigating locked door after locked door, which the game would mark for you. But Organ Quarter leaves that up to you. You've got your map in your left hand and a marker in your right to note which doors are locked, which rooms have unsolved puzzles in them, or whatever. And marking up this map will be imperative to solving some of the puzzles. Unfortunately, though, it's also kind of broken at the moment. Every time you bring up the map, the marker in your right hand appears about 2 inches further away than it should be. And then the next time you bring it up, it's 2 inches further still. And this keeps happening, meaning that if you're in a puzzle-heavy section like this, eventually the marker will be about 12 feet away, making it completely useless, forcing you to have to save the game and then restart. Throughout the course of the game, I had to do this at least 2 or 3 times. VRAF, this is not. Refrigerators, cabinets, and drawers are all just set dressing. Nothing opens, and there are very few items to interact with here. Even doors don't open. Grabbing a doorknob just results in the screen fading to black, and then you reappear in the next room. It's the same thing with stairs. To climb them, you've got to grab the railing, and then you're teleported to the top. And walking in Organ Quarter is a drag. It's not so bad in close quarters, but when you're out on the sprawling streets or later in the park, even holding the run button down gets you nowhere fast, which made me never want to backtrack, even when I should have. And that's not something you want in any game, but especially not a VR horror game. Because other than this, the game is admittedly really creepy. It avoids jump scares and relies far more on just being weird and building tension. So is Organ Quarter actually Silent Hill in VR? Well, yes and no. It's not nearly as scary, but it does capture the look, feel, and music of some of those older survival horror titles, particularly the 32-bit generation. The boss fights were fun, the map system will be great if they manage to get it patched, and overall, I had a lot of fun struggling through some of the tougher puzzles. If you didn't grow up in the early days of survival horror, then you might want to tread lightly. But for the rest of us, there's definitely something here.